It's 11 p.m. You're finally relaxed. Nothing to do, nowhere to be. And then, out of nowhere, your brain goes, "Hey, remember that thing you said in 3rd grade? Cool. Great. Love that for me." Your brain has a special department just for this, the 2 a.m. replay committee. Their only job is to replay that one awkward thing you said in full 4K, with commentary. They never do slow motion replays of the times you were charming. Never. Just the cringe, forever, in HD. Or here's another classic. You send a totally normal text. They reply with one word. Just K. And within 4 seconds, your brain has written an entire courtroom drama. They hate me. They've always hated me. I should move to another country. Meanwhile, they were just driving. Group chats are their own special circle of overthinking. You type a message, delete it, type it again slightly differently. Statistically, it was probably the phone call. Your brain votes for you specifically every time. Here's what's actually happening up there. Your brain runs a 24-hour news channel, and the only category is breaking, possible disaster. It doesn't matter if the actual news is nothing happened. They'll find an angle. Nothing happened yet. This isn't a personal failing. It's an ancient survival system with terrible PR instincts. For most of human history, being overly cautious was useful. If your ancestors heard a rustling bush, they didn't think, probably just a squirrel. They thought, could be a tiger. And honestly, good strategy. Because the one guy who said, let's investigate, probably didn't make it into the family tree. So your brain learned something very simple. False alarm? Annoying. Missed danger? Potentially fatal. Better safe than sorry. The problem is that your brain still has that software. Except now the bush is a text message. The tiger is your coworker, maybe sounding annoyed. And the predator is someone replying, sure. Same wiring. Wildly different stakes. And your brain hasn't exactly updated the operating system. It also loves to strike during the smallest possible decisions. Choosing a Netflix show becomes a 45-minute strategic operation. You read 4 synopses, watch 2 trailers, read reviews, search Reddit, then somehow end up rewatching the same show from 2019. You didn't choose entertainment. You conducted market research. Ordering coffee becomes a TED Talk you give yourself in line. The barista just wants an answer. Your brain wants a 30-page report. Do I want hot or iced? What does my body need? What does this choice say about me? Am I becoming the kind of person who drinks oat milk? Sir, there are 7 people behind you. And then there's the classic parking lot standoff. You circle for 10 minutes looking for the perfect spot. Closest to the door, not too close to another car, easy exit, minimal walking. You finally find it. You park, you get out, and realize the spot 3 spaces away would have been exactly the same. You have burned more energy finding the perfect parking space than you would have spent walking across the parking lot. But your brain feels victorious because apparently you have conquered parking. And then there's the real headliner, the what-if spiral. It starts small. What if I left the stove on? Then, what if the stove causes a fire? Then, what if the fire spreads to the whole building? Then, what if it's on the news? What if they interview my neighbors? What if someone says I was irresponsible? What if my entire reputation is destroyed? 40 seconds ago, you were just leaving for groceries. The stove, for the record, was off the entire time. Your brain just produced a disaster movie with a $200 million budget, and somehow you're the villain. Then there's trying to fall asleep. You decide, tonight I'm going to sleep early. You get comfortable, close your eyes, and start counting sheep. Sheep 1, fine. Sheep 2, fine. Sheep 14 suddenly reminds you of a fence you saw in a movie once, which reminds you of a plot hole in that movie, which reminds you that you never finished another movie, which somehow reminds you that you never finished your taxes. Now you're mentally calculating your finances. At 1:17 a.m., the sheep have completely left the building. And this is where overthinking becomes exhausting, because it doesn't always feel like anxiety. Sometimes it feels productive. That's the trick. Your brain convinces you that thinking about the problem is the same thing as solving it. But it isn't. Real problem solving eventually produces something. A decision, a plan, an action. Overthinking produces another question, and then another question, and then another question. It's a treadmill disguised as a desk. You're moving constantly, but you're not actually going anywhere. That's why you can spend 2 hours thinking about something and somehow feel like you accomplished absolutely nothing. Because you didn't solve the problem. You just became extremely familiar with it. And the exhausting part isn't even the spiral. It's that you can't fully enjoy good moments because part of your brain is scanning for the catch. Someone says, "You did a great job." Instead of saying, "Thank you," your brain starts cross-examining them. Do they actually mean that? Are they just being nice? Was that sarcastic? Why did they say it like that? Is there something behind this? Meanwhile, the compliment is sitting there getting cold. It just wanted to make your day. You turned it into evidence. Good news arrives. Instead of celebrating, your brain asks, "Okay, but what's the downside?" There's always a downside if you look hard enough. That's not wisdom. That's a hobby. And social media makes this even worse. Scrolling before bed is basically inviting the entire replay committee to a party. Someone is traveling, someone got promoted, someone bought a house, someone got engaged, someone's 6-year-old apparently speaks 3 languages, someone's dog can skateboard. Suddenly your completely normal Tuesday feels like a personal failure. You're comparing your behind-the-scenes footage to everyone else's highlight reel. Nobody posts the part where they stared at the ceiling at 1 a.m., wondering what they're doing with their life. Nobody posts, "Spent 40 minutes overthinking a message and then ate cereal." But that footage exists. It's just not going on Instagram. And here's the funny part. The people you're comparing yourself to are probably doing the exact same thing. They're looking at somebody else's life, thinking, "Why don't I have that?" Everybody is watching somebody else's highlight reel. Meanwhile, everybody's own blooper reel is playing privately. Overthinkers also love preparing for conversations that will never happen. You've got a whole rebuttal ready for an argument nobody has started. You've rehearsed the perfect comeback to something someone said 4 years ago. You know exactly what you should have said. You know the facial expression you should have made. You know the dramatic pause. You know the final sentence that would have destroyed the argument. There's just one problem. The other person forgot the conversation existed. You remember it in 3 acts with a twist ending. So, okay, enough roasting your own brain. Let's actually fix it. First, give the spiral an appointment. When a thought barges in at the wrong time, tell it, "Not now. You're booked for 6 p.m. tomorrow." It sounds ridiculous, but it creates distance. You're not saying, "I can never think about this." You're saying, I don't have to think about this right now. And weirdly, a lot of thoughts don't even show up for the appointment. Second, name the thought. Literally say, I'm overthinking this. That tiny sentence can create separation between you and the thought. Instead of, they hate me, you notice, I'm having the thought that they hate me. That difference matters. You're no longer inside the thought. You're observing it. Third, ask, what's the smallest next step? Not, what's the entire plan? Overthinking loves big, vague, terrifying questions. What am I going to do with my life? How will everything work out? What if everything goes wrong? Those questions are enormous. Instead, ask, what can I do in the next 10 minutes? Send the email. Write the first sentence. Wash the dishes. Make the appointment. Go for the walk. Small actions turn fog into information. Fourth, set a decision timer. Coffee, 2 minutes. Outfit, 2 minutes. Movie, 2 minutes. Restaurant, pick one. Not every decision deserves a board meeting. Sometimes the best decision is simply the decision you can make and move on from. Fifth, remember that good enough finishes things. Perfect doesn't. Perfect is often just overthinking wearing a nicer outfit. You don't need the perfect workout. You need to start exercising. You don't need the perfect business idea. You need to test an idea. You don't need the perfect sentence. You need to write the first one. Progress is usually boring. And that's exactly why your brain doesn't like it. Sixth, ride the spiral down. Because thoughts feel enormous when they stay inside your head. Put them on paper. Write the fear, then write the evidence. Then write what you can actually control. You'll often discover that the terrifying thought becomes strangely small once it has to survive outside your imagination. Seventh, move your body. Take a 5-minute walk. Stretch. Clean something. Go outside. Your brain and body are not separate departments. Sometimes the fastest way to tell your brain we're safe is to let your body experience normal movement. Overthinking loves perfect stillness. It absolutely hates a walk around the block. And finally, talk back to the replay committee. Objection, irrelevant. That happened in 2016. Objection, speculation. You don't actually know what they meant by K. Objection, lack of evidence. The stove is off. Turns out, the committee folds pretty fast once someone actually shows up to court. Because here's the thing. You don't have to believe every thought your brain produces. Your brain is designed to generate thoughts. Not every thought is a command. Not every thought is a prediction. Not every thought is a warning. Some thoughts are just mental noise. And you don't have to turn every piece of noise into a project.
So the next time you're lying awake at midnight, replaying a conversation from 2016, remember, the other person probably forgot about it 11 minutes after it happened. They're not thinking about you. They're thinking about what to order for dinner. Your brain built a whole courtroom. They built a grocery list. Relaxing isn't about silencing your brain completely. That's probably impossible. It's about learning when to stop negotiating with every thought that walks through the door. Your brain isn't trying to ruin your night. It's trying to protect you from something that already ended, or something that isn't even real yet. Which means most of what you're solving at 2 a.m. was never actually a problem you could solve. It was just fear, wearing a little name tag that said responsibility. And maybe that's the real skill. Not thinking harder, not analyzing everything perfectly, not predicting every possible outcome. The skill is noticing the exact moment thinking stopped helping. Because there's a difference between thinking about something and thinking yourself in circles. There's a difference between being prepared and being afraid. There's a difference between responsibility and trying to control everything.
Not every alarm deserves a response. Not every thought deserves an investigation. Not every possibility deserves your attention. You get to choose which ones are actually yours to answer. And maybe that's what peace really is. Not having a completely quiet mind. Just knowing you don't have to attend every meeting it schedules. So tonight, when the replay committee calls another emergency session, you can simply say, not tonight. The awkward conversation can wait. The imaginary argument can wait. The what-ifs can wait. The perfect decision can wait. The stove is fine. It was always fine. And for once, you can let your brain be bored. Because sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is absolutely nothing. Go to sleep. Tomorrow will still be there. And most of the problems your brain promised you were urgent won't be. If this made your brain feel personally attacked, hit like, share it with someone currently overthinking this outro, and subscribe for more ideas that actually help you think less, not more.